Forget what you think you know about Gilead's wives. They weren't all sipping tea and praising the patriarchy. Naomi Putnam entered the scene looking like a Stepford wife dipped in passive aggression. But what if she was playing a role that we never understood? Behind every forced smile is a story, and Naomi's might be the one we misjudge the most. Strap in, because today we're unraveling the blue silk layers of Naomi Putnam, Gilead's frenemy, faux trad wife, and possibly a silent survivor in a world where speaking out could cost everything. Let's start at the beginning. Naomi is radiant, quite frankly a little too radiant, during the birth of her child. She's basking in the celebration, not just for the baby, but the status that comes with it, knowing she's the envy of everyone in the room. This baby provides more awe than the latest Hermes. She pretends to be in labour while Janine actually gives birth. And when the baby is ripped from Janine's arms, Naomi doesn't even blink. She doesn't even acknowledge Janine. The whole thing is dystopian performance art. And it's hard. No, scrap that. It's impossible to feel any warmth for Naomi in that moment. And if Naomi wasn't unlikable enough, she's married to Commander Putnam, a man who makes these guys look like the perfect gentleman. We only see glimpses of her motherhood. But what's striking is the lack of attachment she seems to feel for the baby. Suddenly, we judge her even more for the coldness to the child that she stole from her prisoner. We see little of a relationship with Charlotte. Nope, I'm not doing it. I'm not calling her Angela. We hear her complain to Serena.
They bit you? Mm-hmm. You know how they get. I'm just counting the days until Angela's weaned and that girl is out of my house.
And it's, well, quite frankly disturbing on multiple levels, especially with the lack of empathy towards Janine in that moment and her ability to see herself as the victim in this scenario. But despite everyone else's judgment, Naomi does allow Janine to hold Charlotte on multiple occasions, even when she is no longer her handmaid. And what is interesting is we see the wives discipline the handmaids on multiple occasions, and yet we never hear any further punishment for these bites. I mean, quite frankly, she's lucky that all Janine is doing is biting her. And when it's revealed that Putnam had been sleeping with Janine outside the ceremonies, Naomi doesn't get angry. She demands justice. And suddenly, poof, his arm is gone. It's easy to assume that's just revenge, but maybe there's more. Maybe Naomi wasn't just humiliated. Maybe she'd been quietly enduring hell for years. We never really see their marriage. We project onto it, and society makes it easy for us. Naomi, the scorned wife, the bad mother, the woman who could steal a baby for social status. But what if Naomi wasn't the villain, just the prisoner with pearls? Let's look at her relationship with Serena. On the surface, they appear like friends or the perfect frenemies. At times, they confide in each other, support each other, but they love to see each other fall. And we see Naomi relish in Serena's downfall, faking sincerity while trying to steal her baby. What a bestie! It's a perfect example of when the patriarchy tells you only one of you can succeed. But what if her hating Serena wasn't jealousy? What if it wasn't her trying to come out on top? But instead it's because she knew Serena helped create the prison that they lived in. She was the reason she was trapped with her husband, with so little rights that she wasn't even able to read. I mean, maybe she's seen this as the perfect revenge for Serena. Luke certainly did. And suddenly, you start to see Naomi a little differently. Maybe Naomi isn't heartless. Maybe she's heart bruised. Maybe she's always hated Gilead, hated what Serena helped create, and hated herself for playing dress up in it. We assume Naomi was a devout follower, but her disgust was palpable when child brides were paraded around. And there are multiple other times where, let's just say, her poker face starts to crack. She even supported Serena's plea for more rights. And yes, I know what you are thinking. Naomi then retreated when Serena went off script and started reading. But was that betrayal? Or just simply fear? Maybe Naomi was terrified because she knew what happened to women who stepped out of line. Serena lost a finger. Naomi knew it could always be worse, especially when she didn't have Serena standing. Naomi's Putnam love life, or whatever this was, felt like a masterclass in surviving by association. Her two marriages couldn't be more different. Both came with status, both wrapped in protocol and politics. But morally, they couldn't be more different. With Putnam, we saw what exactly? One tense breakfast when she quickly realised he had messed up yet again, several unsettling glances, and the vague impression that the man treated marriage like a business deal and handmaids like room service. And let's not forget poor Esther, who fell victim to him before she was even officially assigned. Side note, where the hell is Esther? Are we just assuming that she's no longer chained to that bed? Naomi's relationship with Putnam was never romantic. It was contractual. It gave her social standing and a seat at patriarchy's dinner table. But we don't know how much she played along behind the scenes. For example, we don't even know if she actually participated in any of the ceremonies. Why would she need to, when her husband was off doing extra credit sessions with every available handmaid? I think it's safe to presume that Lawrence had no interest in starting the ceremonies when he married Naomi. We've seen other wives evading this process. And what if Naomi did too? Her silence might be mistaken for complicity, but maybe it was just a strategy. Maybe she knew that speaking out wouldn't help her or Charlotte. Maybe she hated a repulsive husband long before Janine entered the picture. Then came Commander Lawrence. With him, Naomi wasn't a prop. She was a political advisor. She prepped him, coached him, and helped him hold court with Gilead's elite. Now, I'm not saying he listened, as he was peddling his own resistance agenda, but the attempt was there. She didn't care about Gilead's values. She cared about surviving them. We do see a different side to Naomi when she is with Lawrence. Did Lawrence bring more warmth to her character, more faith in humanity, or hope for the future? Or maybe the side was there all along. She would just now have permission to show it. Putnam flaunted power, enjoying the privilege, taking liberties wherever he could. Lawrence wielded it reluctantly, battling his conscience and what he helped create, trying trying to seek redemption, yet never quite brave enough to fully rebel. Well, up until he meets his end, that is. Which is what makes his exit one of the most gut-punching of the series. Naomi adjusted to both, never resisting outright, but never surrendering either. In Gilead, where the cost of defiance is amputation, or worse, maybe strategic silence is the loudest rebellion you get. Which brings us to Naomi's weirdest alliance, and a biggest emotional gamble. Janine. Gilead is more than cruelty. It's isolation. And slowly we see Naomi reaching for something that looks like friendship. When we see Naomi rattling around the Lawrence household after the wedding that was just a show, we see how lonely she really is. Then when Janine is assigned to a house again, Naomi sees Janine as an emotional lifeline, but forgets that they live on opposite ends of the trauma spectrum. Naomi believes she's being kind, but she doesn't fully understand the weight of Janine's trauma. She thinks she's helping Janine with no ceremonies and access to Charlotte, but her gesture comes with boundaries, supervision, and emotional distance. Yes, both women are prisoners of Gilead, but Naomi still holds the key Janine was never offered. And when Janine rejects her, when she dares to look at Naomi in the eye and say no, Naomi can't take it and Janine is sent away. The rejection is just too much for Naomi. But is this because of the rejection, the disobedience, Janine being ungrateful, or just the realisation that this does not make up for everything that she's put Janine through? She may be a prisoner of Gilead, she is still Janine's captor. She looked for a friend in the lowest social rank, and Janine looked right back at her in a moment of kindness, and all she could still see was the monster. Janine is a reminder, not only of everything awful that Naomi has ever done, how her complicity in the system has impacted others, how she will always be alone in this world. But not only that, after the death of Putnam, the realisation hits, she's one misstep away from becoming a Janine. Now let's circle back to Charlotte. Naomi's daughter on paper, Janine's the daughter in truth, and possibly the single most painful reminder of everything Naomi never chose. Their bond was never simple. Naomi rarely showed softness, but when Charlotte was sick, she stayed. She allowed Janine to visit, and later she brought Charlotte to Janine herself, with no fanfare, just quiet urgency. She even said the word,
I'll make sure that Angela grows up to know where she got her beautiful smile and her sweet nature.
Why would Naomi acknowledge Charlotte's true origins? Maybe because Charlotte wasn't just a child. She was a living receipt of everything Naomi had tried to suppress. The product of Putnam's sins, of systemic violence, of a society Naomi never asked to mother in. What looked like lack of bonding might have been something else. Discomfort, conflict. Charlotte wasn't just a baby. She was a reminder of the trauma, the constant reminder of how she came to be with Naomi. Charlotte was quite literally Naomi's guilt anchor. It makes you wonder if Naomi always knew she'd give Charlotte back one day, or understood that one day Charlotte could be taken away from her too. When Naomi and Charlotte live with Lawrence, things shift. Naomi still isn't loved, but she is safe. Charlotte is safe. There is warmth. During the goodbye, Naomi's handed a book, a bedtime story, and we start to see a tiny crack in the facade. We see her tears, a real display of emotion. She knew it could be a goodbye to Lawrence. Was that the reason for the tears? Or the realisation that this meant that her and Charlotte were yet again no longer safe? Was that scene Naomi's permission to read it to Charlotte a flicker of hope? Or a flash of dread, knowing the regime punishes girls for wanting to learn? But she took the book, knowing what it could mean. And that says a lot. Did she do it out of duty to Lawrence? Given that he was her husband, she may not have loved him, but she had come to care for him. Or was it an act of rebellion, knowing she wanted more for Charlotte than what Gilead offered? She saw it. Her daughter wasn't free, just slightly less imprisoned. Then we get, in my opinion, which is one of the worst scenes of the season. She gives Charlotte away, and it could appear on the surface like she's passing her away like a second-hand handbag. The child that once gave her status, social insulation, and pretend motherhood, now given back to her role mother. Yet Naomi seems quite wooden, just a whisper of, I want you to be safe. Despite the scene lacking the emotional impact I think it was trying to achieve, it made me realise that giving Charlotte away wasn't surrender. It was Naomi's last rebellion, and maybe her first act of love. Naomi Putnam isn't a feminist icon. She's not inspirational. She's not even likeable, really. But she is a case study in survival, and how patriarchy can torch women into roles that hurt others just to stay alive. She embodies the discomfort of complicity, the blurred line between villain and victim, the kind of women history forgets or misrepresents because her resistance was quiet, strategic, and suffocated by design. Let's be honest, we all want to be Emily or late season Rita or even June, the brave ones, the ones who fight back loudly. But Gilead grinds you down, makes you feel hopeless, makes you the worst version of yourself. Survival often means doing the unthinkable, just for the luxury of waking up the next day. If you were placed in Naomi's shoes with a repulsive husband, no rights, and a stolen daughter, what would you do? Do we really know? Hopefully we will never find out, despite the fact that we seem to be moving closer to this dystopian reality.
Nothing changes instantaneously. In a gradually heating bathtub, you'd be boiled to death before you knew it.
In a world like Gilead, where choice is a myth and agency is rationed, maybe Naomi played the long game, quietly, strategically. Maybe we haven't seen the last of Naomi yet. So was Naomi Putnam evil or just exquisitely trapped? Drop your thoughts below and smile you next time.